I'm Lieutenant Colonel Jenna Hayes, a proud veteran of the United States Army, and today, I'm stepping into the spotlight with a story that's deeply personal, my own. If you've ever been cut down by the very people who raised you, if you've clawed your way through doubt and dismissal only to stand taller on the other side, then buckle up. This isn't just a recounting, it's a testament to turning betrayal into fuel, judgment into justice. Imagine this. It's the day you've waited for, your wedding, a celebration of love and hard-won identity. But moments before you walk down the aisle, your phone lights up with a message from your father: "You're a disgrace." Harsh, right? Devastating. Yet, just hours later, that same phone rings off the hook, 58 missed calls from him, each one more desperate than the last. What could possibly turn a stone-cold rejection into frantic pleas? How does a lifetime of tension explode and then rebuild in a single day? Stay with me through this roller coaster of family drama, military grit, and ultimate redemption. It's a story that will grip you, challenge you, and maybe even inspire you to reflect on your own battles. Let's dive right in, no holds barred. From the very beginning, my life was a meticulously structured courtroom, presided over by my father, Judge Reginald Montgomery. In our quiet hometown of Oak Ridge, Virginia, he was a legend, a third-generation attorney whose name evoked images of packed courtrooms and landmark rulings on constitutional matters. His cases weren't the everyday disputes, they were the ones that shaped policy, debated in law schools, and splashed across the pages of prestigious journals. At home, that intensity didn't switch off. Our family dinners were never relaxed affairs with laughter and shared stories. No, they were interrogations disguised as meals. "Jenna, state your case for extending curfew," he'd command, his deep voice echoing like a judge's gavel in a silent hall. I'd muster my best arguments: good behavior at school, completed homework, perhaps a recent A on a test, only for him to pick them apart with ruthless logic. Insufficient evidence, he'd rule, or premise flawed from the start. The plate of food would remain untouched, a silent punishment. He called it character building, a way to steel me against the cruelties of the real world where, according to him, only the sharpest minds survived. But as a child, it felt like constant scrutiny, a never-ending trial where I was perpetually on the defense. Balancing out his stern regime was my mother, Evelyn, a beacon of warmth in our otherwise rigid household. She was an elementary school teacher, the kind who could turn a chaotic classroom into a haven of learning with just her gentle smile and infectious enthusiasm. Her hazel eyes sparkled with empathy, and her laugh, it was like sunlight breaking through storm clouds, capable of melting even Dad's iciest moods on rare occasions. After one of his verdicts at dinner, she'd sneak me a treat later, a cookie or a piece of fruit, whispering in my ear, "You argued beautifully, my dear. Remember, sometimes the heart's evidence is the strongest of all." She taught me the value of kindness, of seeing beyond the black and white of rules to the colorful nuances of human emotion. We shared quiet moments in the garden, planting flowers and talking about dreams, hers filled with stories of travel and adventure that she never quite pursued because of family obligations. But life, as I've learned time and again, doesn't adhere to fair trials or balanced scales. When I was 15, in the midst of my sophomore year, cancer came knocking. It was aggressive, relentless, turning my vibrant mother into a shadow of herself almost overnight. One evening, she was helping me puzzle through a tricky algebra equation, her hand steady on mine. The next, hospitals and treatments consumed our world. The chemotherapy sessions, the hospital smells of antiseptic and despair, the way her hair fell out in clumps, it all blurred into a nightmare. Dad threw himself into work, as if briefs and motions could outrun the grief. I sat by her bedside, holding her hand, promising I'd make her proud. She passed on a rainy Tuesday, leaving a silence in our home that no amount of legal jargon could fill. "Life's not a fair trial, Jenna," Dad said at the funeral, his voice cracking for the first time I could remember. "You win some, you lose some. Learn from the loss." But what I learned wasn't resignation, it was rebellion. Losing Mom showed me that rules could be broken, paths forged anew, because clinging to the expected could rob you of everything meaningful. High school became a pressure cooker after that. I threw myself into academics and activities, not out of passion, but to meet Dad's unyielding expectations. Straight A's were mandatory, debate club a given, anything to align with his vision of my future, Yale Law School, followed by clerkships under influential judges, and eventually, perhaps, a seat on the bench myself. The Montgomery legacy must endure, he'd proclaim, slamming his fist on the oak dining table for emphasis, his eyes burning with the fire of generations past. Family portraits lined our walls, stern-faced ancestors in judicial robes staring down as if judging my every move. I excelled, but it felt hollow, like performing in a play I hadn't auditioned for. Friends came and went, but real connections were secondary to the grind. Then, on September 11, 2001, everything shattered. I was 18, just graduated, sitting in our living room as the news footage played on loop, the towers crumbling, the smoke billowing, the horror unfolding in real time. It wasn't just a national tragedy, it was a personal call to action. A fire ignited deep within me, one that no law book or courtroom could contain. I wanted to do more than argue cases, I wanted to defend lives, to stand on the front lines of freedom. The very next day, on my birthday no less, I walked into the local Army recruiter's office. No elaborate plan, no consultations, just a burning resolve. I signed the papers, packed a duffel bag with essentials, and boarded a bus to basic training. It was impulsive, yes, but it felt like the first true decision of my life. Dad's reaction was a masterclass in controlled fury. He stared at the enlistment documents I'd left on his desk, his face paling as if I'd handed him a death sentence. For minutes, he said nothing, the silence thicker than any argument we'd ever had. Then, in a voice laced with bitter disappointment, "This is the path of the aimless, Jenna. People without direction enlist. You're squandering your potential, throwing away the legacy I've built for you." No encouragement, no questions about my motivations, just dismissal. I left the next morning without a farewell embrace, the door clicking shut behind me like a final judgment. Basic training hit like a freight train, dawn wake-ups, grueling runs through pouring rain, push-ups until your arms screamed for mercy, and drill sergeants whose voices could strip paint from walls. "Hayes! Drop and give me 50, they'd bellow, testing every limit. But amid the chaos, I found liberation. The Army's rules weren't arbitrary, they were purposeful, clear chains of command, team bonds forged in shared suffering, objectives that mattered beyond personal gain. I wasn't just surviving, I was excelling. Top of my platoon in marksmanship, first in navigation drills. Graduation day, standing tall in my fatigues, I felt a pride Dad's approvals had never given me. Assigned to logistics, I discovered my superpower, turning disorder into efficiency, coordinating supplies in high-stakes environments where a delayed shipment could cost lives. Deployments came swiftly, pulling me into the heart of conflict. Iraq first, in 2004, where the desert heat baked everything into submission, and sandstorms turned day into night. I managed supply chains for forward operating bases, ensuring ammo, food, and medical kits arrived on time despite insurgent threats and logistical nightmares. One night, under a starless sky, our base came under mortar fire, explosions rocking the ground, shouts echoing as we scrambled to bunkers. In the aftermath, I coordinated emergency resupplies, working 36 hours straight to get wounded soldiers the care they needed. It was there I learned the true cost of service, not just physical, but emotional, carrying the weight of decisions that echoed far beyond the battlefield. Then Afghanistan, multiple tours that blurred into a tapestry of mountains, villages, and constant vigilance. Kandahar province in 2008 stands out as a defining chapter. Our convoy, snaking through rugged terrain, hit an ambush at dusk. RPGs streaked across the sky like deadly fireworks, bullets pinging off armored vehicles like hail on tin. 14 of our troops were trapped in a narrow ravine, cut off from retreat, enemy positions on the high ground raining fire. As the logistics officer, my role was support, not frontline combat, but when comms fritzed and supplies dwindled, protocol went out the window. I rallied a makeshift team, for soldiers, including a young private fresh from basic, and used hastily gathered drone footage to map a flanking path. Under suppressive fire, we pushed forward, coordinating with air support via a jury-rigged radio. The choppers arrived like guardian angels, laying down cover as we extracted the pin squad. All 14 made it out, scraped and shaken but alive. For that operation, I was awarded the Bronze Star in a makeshift ceremony on base, the medal pinned to my chest amid dust and cheers. My hands trembled not from fear, but from the raw adrenaline of victory. I snapped a photo and emailed it to Dad, me in full combat gear, the star gleaming against the camouflage. His reply? Crickets. Absolute silence. It pierced deeper than any bullet, but I compartmentalized it, as the Army taught. My unit became my family, their trust my anchor. The years flew by in a whirlwind of promotions and responsibilities. From captain to major, then lieutenant colonel, a trajectory fueled by relentless drive and proven results. I shifted into strategic operations, training entire units on adaptive tactics, resilience under pressure, and the art of turning setbacks into strategies. It was fulfilling work, molding the next generation of leaders while reflecting on my own journey. Amid the deployments and drills, love found me unexpectedly. Lucas Grant entered my life at a veterans charity gala in D.C., his presence a quiet contrast to the room's bustle. An architect specializing in eco-friendly homes for returning soldiers, he had this grounded aura, broad shoulders from construction sites, steady blue eyes that held yours without wavering. We struck up a conversation over appetizers. He didn't pry with the usual "what's it like over there?" pity. Instead, he asked thoughtful questions. How do you build team trust in chaos? His genuine curiosity drew me in. You've constructed worlds I could only sketch on paper, he said with a warm smile. Our relationship bloomed long distance, sustained by video calls during my tours and care packages he'd send, filled with hand-drawn blueprints of dream homes, notes of encouragement, and little reminders of civilian life like gourmet coffee beans. After a particularly grueling deployment, he proposed on a Virginia hillside under a canopy of stars, kneeling with a simple ring that caught the moonlight. Jenna, you fought for so much. Let me fight for us. Marry me, and we'll build a foundation no storm can shake. It was perfect, practical, heartfelt, just like him. Wedding planning, however, unearthed old landmines. I envisioned wearing my dress blues, the deep navy coat tailored to perfection, crisp white shirt beneath, trousers pressed to a knife's edge, adorned with campaign ribbons, unit insignia, and those silver oak leaves signifying my rank. It wasn't about shock value, it was authenticity, honoring the 16 years of blood, sweat, and sacrifices that shaped me. Lucas embraced it fully. This is you, Jenna, fierce, unapologetic. Why hide the warrior who's won my heart, he'd say, pulling me close. But Dad? The idea ignited World War III in our sporadic phone calls. A wedding is a sacred tradition, not a military drill, he'd bark. You'll look ridiculous in that get-up, no place for camouflage at the altar. Months of arguments ensued, him insisting on a proper gown, me standing firm. This uniform represents my oath, my service, it's who I am, I'd counter. He'd scoff, it's a rebellion, nothing more. A costume for those who couldn't cut it in the real world. Deep down, I sensed his disdain stemmed from my choice to enlist over his legacy path. To him, the Army was a detour for the directionless, especially for a woman. Family lunches turned tense, his wife, he'd remarried years after Mom, trying to mediate, but the rift widened. If you insist on this spectacle, don't expect me front and center, he warned in our last conversation before the big day. I hung up, heart heavy, but resolved. This wedding was ours, not his courtroom. The day dawned bright and promising, the quaint Oak Ridge chapel bathed in golden sunlight filtering through ancient stained glass windows depicting scenes of peace and unity, ironic, given the storm brewing. Guests arrived in waves, old army buddies in their finest, Lucas's family warm and welcoming, a smattering of locals who'd known me since childhood. I paced the vestibule in my uniform, the fabric a second skin, bouquet of wildflowers clutched tightly. My maid of honor, Carla, my boot camp sister who'd shared foxholes and late-night confessions, fussed over my collar. "You look like a boss, Colonel." "Own this," she grinned, her own dress a nod to our shared history with subtle military accents. The organ music swelled, a majestic prelude, and guests rose in anticipation. That's when my phone vibrated in my pocket, a habit from years of on-call duty. I glanced down, expecting a well-wish from a deployed friend. Instead, Dad's name and the text, "We're tied up with commitments. I won't be attending, you're a disgrace to the Montgomery name." The words slammed into me like incoming artillery, my breath catching, vision blurring. Disgrace? After all I'd achieved, all I'd endured? Carla noticed my falter. "Jenna? You okay?" I handed her the phone wordlessly. She read it, her face hardening. That son of a... Lucas materialized then, his tuxedo sharp, concern etching his features. He scanned the message, jaw clenching, but his composure held. 2 hours, he murmured cryptically, slipping his own phone out for a swift call before tucking it away. "He doesn't get to steal this from you, love. You deserve the victory lap." His hand found mine, steadying me, and together we stepped forward. I walked that aisle with deliberate strides, chin lifted, every boot heel clicking a defiance. The guests didn't murmur in surprise, we'd forewarned them of my attire. Instead, they offered nods of respect, some saluting subtly. The minister's words washed over me, vows of partnership, enduring love. Lucas's eyes locked on mine, his thumb gently tracing the calluses on my fingers, remnants of rifle grips and rope climbs. "I cherish the fighter, the leader, the woman who stared down hell and come back stronger," he whispered in his vows. We kissed to applause, and only then did the tears flow, not of sorrow, but cathartic release. I'd claimed my moment, uniform and all. The reception transformed the chapel hall into a wonderland, string lights twinkling like distant stars, tables laden with feasts, a band playing upbeat tunes that had everyone dancing. Toasts flowed, Carla's hilarious recount of our basic training mishaps, Lucas's brother praising my influence on his sibling. Our first dance was magical, swaying to a soft ballad, his arms a safe harbor. Midway through, Carla darted over, phone extended. "It's going nuts, 58 calls, all from your old man." I stared at the screen, notifications stacking like urgent dispatches. Voicemails flooded in. Lucas smirked knowingly. "Told you, 2 hours." In the quiet of the bridal suite, away from the revelry, I hit play. The first, brusque, authoritative. "Jenna, pick up. Now." The next few similar, demanding. By the fifth, a hint of unease. "Call me back immediately, something's come up." Escalating to please, I may have spoken hastily. "Please answer." The 10th, desperate. "Jenna, you need to hear this. Call." My anger simmered, where was this urgency before? Lucas revealed his masterstroke. After reading Dad's text, he dialed his old college buddy, Brendan Ellis, managing editor at the Washington Sentinel, a respected outlet for in-depth features. I fast-tracked the narrative, Lucas explained, eyes gleaming. He compiled my dossier, 16 years of exemplary service, the Kandahar heroism earning the Bronze Star, innovative logistics reforms that saved millions in efficiency, and a pending nomination for the Presidential Medal of Freedom for my work in veteran reintegration programs, streamlining processes that prevented suicides and homelessness among returning troops. Brendan, moved by the story, rushed a profile, Lieutenant Colonel Jenna Hayes, forging duty amid legacy's shadow. It published online mid-ceremony, timed for maximum impact. Virality ensued, shares from veteran groups, retweets from high-ranking officers, a viral thread from a retired four-star general, served alongside Hayes. Her strategic mind saved lives. Honored to know her. Mainstream media latched on, excerpts on CNN's ticker, features in The Atlantic on women in service, even a segment on morning shows. The local Oak Ridge Gazette blared, local hero's wedding snubbed by esteemed judge father, details inside. Dad's pristine reputation, built on decades of judicial integrity, cracked under the scrutiny. Whispers in legal circles, cancelled speaking gigs, a dip in his influence. I took the 59th call in the suite, Lucas by my side. Jenna, Dad's voice broke through, uncharacteristically shaky. I read the article. I didn't realize the extent. You never bothered to ask, I replied evenly, steel in my tone. Not about Kandahar, not about the program saving lives. You wrote me off. A long pause. I was mistaken. Harsh. Please, can we talk? He begged for a meeting. I consented, not at the reception, but a neutral coffee shop down the street. There, amid the aroma of fresh brews, I unloaded years of pent-up truth. Your words didn't wound because I crave your approval, Dad. They stung because they stripped away my respect for you. You've missed every milestone of my becoming, who I am beyond your blueprint. He fidgeted, avoiding my gaze. I thought the military would crush you, turn you into something broken. It rebuilt me, I shot back. Stronger, purposeful. No tearful embrace, no Hollywood apology, just a fragile admission. He requested entry to the next day's brunch reception, vowing to stay inconspicuous. I agreed, not for reconciliation, but closure on my terms. I refused to stoop to his pettiness. The repercussions hit fast and hard. Dad's world tilted, board positions vacated amid personal reasons, subtle shuns at bar association events, a tarnished legacy now synonymous with familial neglect. For me, the momentum propelled forward. 2 months post-wedding, I eased out of active duty, pivoting to a civilian advisory position with the Department of Defense on military-to-civilian transitions. I overhauled veteran benefit systems, implementing AI-driven processing that slashed wait times from months to weeks, a 40% efficiency boost. Real impacts: a Marine with PTSD getting therapy without bureaucracy, an Air Force vet securing housing before homelessness struck. Invitations poured in, culminating in the Defense Women's Leadership Summit. Before a packed auditorium of trailblazers, I delivered my keynote: family isn't defined by DNA, it's those who stand with you in the foxhole. Respect? It's not inherited, it's battled for in the trenches of life. And self-respect? That's your indestructible armor, forged in fire. The standing ovation echoed like artillery salutes, affirming my path. That fire sparked Echoes of Honor, my nonprofit dedicated to empowering female veterans. We collaborate with VA hospitals, providing tailored coaching on resumes, interviews, and entrepreneurship, mental health seminars drawing on my deployment experiences, leadership retreats in nature to rebuild confidence. Growth was explosive, 5 state chapters in the first year, testimonials flooding in. One woman, a former medic, shared how our program helped her launch a therapy clinic. Another, a pilot, credited us with navigating civilian aviation jobs. Dad attended the brunch as promised, slipping in quietly, presenting Lucas with a wrapped antique watch, a family heirloom symbolizing time's passage. During toasts, our eyes met, he nodded, a silent acknowledgement. Weeks later, a handwritten letter arrived on heavy stock. True leadership begins when ego yields. I've resigned my board seats, channeled funds to veteran initiatives, one bearing your name, anonymously. I see you now, not as my shadow, but your own light. With earned respect. No pleas for forgiveness, just action, a shift I could respect. The crescendo came with the Presidential Medal of Freedom ceremony at the White House. Dress blues polished to a shine, I stood among luminaries, a scientist, an activist, a diplomat, heart pounding as the president approached. Colonel Hayes, your service exemplifies America's finest. Thank you, he said, clasping my hand amid flashing cameras. The applause was deafening, a symphony of validation. Dad was there, back row, his eyes glistening, perhaps with pride, perhaps regret. In a side corridor post-event, he approached hesitantly. Today, I saw your true measure. It humbled me. You absent from the forging, I replied softly. But presence now matters, if you truly listen. We exited together, steps in sync, words unnecessary for the moment. Now, a year hence, echoes of honor flourishes, impacting thousands. Dad messages sporadically, updates on his VA volunteering, where he teaches legal rights to vets, or shares articles on military reforms. Your example taught me service beyond the bench, one text read. I reflect often, vengeance tempts with its swift blade, but redemption demands patience, constructing from ruins. Power lies not in demolition, but elevation, uplifting others to heights unimagined. Their scorn doesn't define you, your actions do. Forge ahead, own your narrative. If this hit home, smash that like, subscribe for more empowering stories, and drop your triumphs in the comments. What's your pivot from pain to power? Let's inspire each other. Stay resilient, stay valorous. Jenna Hayes, out.